Welcome back to another episode of Rehab Rebels. In this episode, what we're going to talk about is finding professional fulfillment often involves recognizing when a chosen path is no longer aligned with our values and taking bold steps to make a change. It's crucial to prioritize our well-being, acknowledge the need for a shift, and explore alternative career paths that resonate with our passions. This episode highlights the importance of seeking balance, pursuing meaningful connections, and being open to entrepreneurial opportunities that can bring both personal satisfaction and professional success. So we'll give a little background, bio, and brief work history of our guest today, Divya. She's a doctor of physical therapy. She's from Houston, Texas, currently resides in Las Vegas, got her undergrad degree from the University of Houston, her DPT from Texas Tech University, and she's currently growing her virtual rehab and virtual fitness business. She has been an outpatient ortho PT for the last 6 years, started in the hospital-based outpatient setting, and started fitness coaching in 2021 for patients that were DC'd from PT and wanted to continue to work with her. And then she started travel PT in 2021 and has been focusing on her virtual rehab this year. So hello, Divya. Welcome to the Rehab Rebels podcast.
Hi. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to do this today.
Thanks for taking the time to be on the show and share your journey.
Absolutely.
So don't want to waste any time here. Let's just dive right in. What made you decide to become a physical therapist, work in the rehab field in the first place?
Actually, I did not want to be a part of the healthcare industry off the bat. Both of my parents work in the healthcare field to some capacity. My mom is in direct patient care, so I saw her doing that all my life, and I saw all the stress that went with that. And they were also really pushing me into that direction, so I wasn't sure if that's what I really wanted to do or not. I knew that I didn't want a desk job. I knew that I wanted to work with people, and so my interests were, I thought, maybe taking me towards the counseling side of things, getting into more of the mental health space, that sort of thing. But, they had a friend that owned several clinics in the Houston area, PT clinics, and I got into contact with him, started shadowing some other PTs in high school, and that was my first real exposure to the field of physical therapy. And it surprised me in the sense that I wasn't used to seeing healthcare providers provide care in that capacity or that manner. I was seeing PTs sit with patients and talk with them about things that were beyond the reason why they walk through the door. They're actually getting to build some relationship with us. And that's what I want to make a career out of. Really, after that point, I stuck with physical therapy as my choice for what I wanted to do with my career after my senior year of high school.
For sure. What was, we get a little work history. You're in the outpatient setting for several years. What was some first sense of awareness or signs that this particular career path just wasn't quite right for you?
I just felt the focus of what I thought I would be doing and what I was actually doing was, not in line. I felt my goal was to get better treating patients and better as a clinician, but most of the focus in terms of feedback that I would get from higher ups were just about productivity and more about, volume and numbers and billing. And ultimately, yes, there's a business component to being in healthcare, but I just felt that was becoming more of a primary motivator rather than really detailing patient care and improving how we were delivering care to our patients. And that's when I started thinking, okay, is this really what I signed up to do? Or is there another way to maybe go about achieving that goal? Because it didn't really sit right with me that was the approach.
Sure. What were some things that, when you were in that state, some things that maybe you tried to feel out whether this is really where you want to stay, or were able to make a clearer decision about, okay, I need to pivot over into something else?
I really did try to make the most of the first job out of PT school that I had. I tried to play it the way that I was told to play it, go through the systems in place to make sure that my concerns were being heard. I did all the extra trainings, and I was wanting to move into a leadership position so I could have the impact that I felt I could have in the setting that I was in. And ultimately, I just feel like I hit a ceiling. I couldn't get past what I needed to get past. And then really, I started learning, I don't know that I want to even move into an administrative position. I don't know that that would give me any more autonomy and control over the patient care aspect, which was what I really cared about. So yeah, once going through all the usual avenues wasn't working out, then I started thinking about, well, what can I do on my own outside of this? I saw that there was cash-based PTs opening up in gyms and fitness coaches, and all these other options were just starting to show up on my radar. And that's when I started looking into that. And for me, the first outlet was to go to fitness coaching.
Yeah, and we'll dive into that for sure here in a minute. I'm curious about this administrative ladder and role. It sounds like at some point that seemed a legitimate opportunity to get away from this model of numbers are the bottom line situation. So what did you realize or discover that you realized this really wasn't going to work for me either, this administrative leadership role?
Yeah, I think even when I was in college, I just always knew that I was going to wind up doing something, or I was going to want to wind up doing something more than just being a staff PT. And I always thought it was just moving up the corporate healthcare ladder, becoming a supervisor, director, whatever it may be. And I was, like I mentioned, I was being groomed for all those things. I was at all the workshops and committees that I needed to be on to grow into that role. And ultimately, I started seeing that being in middle management was not creating the changes to policy and changes to expectations concerning billing, productivity, creating this extra pressure on clinicians. They were just a mouthpiece for the higher ups above them. I was like, well, how high up do I have to go to make the change that I want to see? Is it even within the hospital system, or is it outside of that too? This just seems like an unending rat race, and that's not something I was going to be happy trying to chase that for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for that clarity. That makes a lot of sense. What were some of the first signs of traction with this coaching role and fitness coaching role that you mentioned?
It's funny because I don't think I ever would have initiated doing anything in that realm until patients started asking me why I wasn't doing it. And so that is when I really felt encouraged and pushed because, my patients are essentially telling me, hey, you know us, you have gotten us to this point where we're quote unquote well for the reason why we came in, but we want to keep exercising. We don't want to just start with a new trainer at the gym, or we don't want to just find some program to follow on our own. We wish there was some way that we could keep working with you. And so that really set the wheels in motion to get me to figure out, okay, how do I need to set this up? How do I need to go about the coaching business? And I just started with in-person with patients that were discharged from physical therapy that wanted to continue to work on their general overall physical wellness and going in that direction.
I love that. I want to pause here and highlight something. Several business owners and entrepreneurs that I talk to have similar stories where there's this gap that's a need, and the need is often solved by coming to the particular business owner or entrepreneur, and they solve that by creating a service that solves that need. That's great because you already have your ideal customers right there coming to you to solve it, because that's how you're going to know A, whether it's going to work or not, and B, how to improve it. It's a longer, more difficult game if you're trying to create a business or a service, but you really don't have that customer connection. But with these particular stories and scenarios, they come to you. And so it's really like the universe is, hey, you have this opportunity here to provide something of value. I'm knocking on your doorstep here. What are you going to do about it? And I really love hearing people's stories about that. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, people that try to step out into this space are always looking for that problem to solve, right? But when the problem just shows up to you, so much of that brainstorming has been solved. Now you just have to figure out, okay, how do I actually shell it out a little bit? Because the main issue is here for me to solve. There's people, the demand is there, and now you just need to go out and meet it. So yeah, absolutely. It's that sense of, you're being affirmed that you are able to provide value to people.
For sure. Let's dive into that a little bit. What was it like making that transition, that jump from you have a secure position working as a physical therapist in an outpatient setting, your patients are saying, hey, we want to keep working with you. What was it like making that jump to being, I don't know if I can do this, to just doing it? I mean, to me, I can imagine there's a lot of mental, emotional things just from that aspect to get through, to be able to position yourself to make this risky move.
Yeah, no, that's something I still struggle with in terms of being able to create the space and the time, because that transition was extremely slow in my book for me. I wasn't one of the ones that was just, oh, okay, I'm going to quit my job now and just focus on this. That's not the level of risk that I want to assume for the time being. So I was really scared and very cautious about how I approached it. I did not market at all. I was literally just, if someone brought it up, I was, okay, yeah, I can do this for you. I can coach you. But I was not advertising. There was no me asking for reviews and telling people to tell their friends. There was no social media page. It was just passively letting it happen until enough things happened that started pushing me towards, okay, this is what I'm actually enjoying doing. This is where I feel I'm providing the most value. I feel I'm really fulfilling a purpose here in this role. And it took a long time. And I feel like to some degree, I'm still figuring out that transition portion of it too.
Absolutely. That's something that's interesting on entrepreneurial journey is once you go from A to B, you're like, okay, I've made it. And then you get to B and it's, wait a minute. There's like B, C, D, E, F. I mean, there's always something else to move up towards. And I love it because it helps you grow personally, professionally, and you have to learn new things and learn new skills. And I think it's great. What were some of those things that you briefly mentioned, these things that happened or you had to experience to really be able to make this jump and to be able to say, okay, I'm definitely leaving this as a primary job and focusing this full time?
So my level of satisfaction with my primary position as a physical therapist staff was deteriorating over the years, especially as I became a traveling physical therapist. I felt like I was sampling bits and pieces of the industry from all different parts of the country, and it was just getting progressively worse. I was getting more burnt out, and I was just, I need to figure something else out, because not only is the travel exhausting me, the 40 hours a week of contract work that I'm doing is absolutely killing me. It's killing my drive to take care of myself, to want to even get out of bed, to feel I made the right choice of even becoming a physical therapist. It was so detrimental for me. I was just like, something has to change. And the one thing that made me feel that sense of purpose and fulfillment was what I was doing with fitness coaching. Just even in the background, this idea of what if I were to do a telehealth practice? We had started seeing that come into play with COVID. And that was something that was well underway by the time I was doing travel and toy Warren up till the middle of this year. But yeah, that's really what got that going.
For sure. And I love how with your particular journey, you try a few different things here. You know, you look at the administrative ladder and leadership ladder and, wow, that's really not what I thought it was going to be and doesn't really fix anything. And then you test out the travel therapy. And what I think is really unique about your story is you point out that travel therapy really wasn't what you thought. And it was actually not something that was this glamorous travel story that we hear so much on social media.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate that about your story because that's often what is marketed. So with that, you know, what was the realization or two that you realized from the travel therapy thing that you're like, okay, yeah, I tried this. This is what it was like for me. This is why it's not for me. And I'm going to do something else.
This part is a little bit nerve-wracking for me to talk about just for the reason that you said. It's so well marketed and it's this glamorous lifestyle where you make more money and you travel the country. And that's why I started doing it in the first place, thinking, okay, I'm not making the changes. I'm not seeing the change that I want to see with this permanent position. I'm young, I'm single. This is the time in my life that I should be doing this, or at least that's what I was being told, that this is the time, this is what you want to do, make more money, see the country, do these great things. And that was a huge buy-in factor for me. It was just the opportunity, once in a lifetime. Who knows when I'll ever get the chance to do this again. So I jumped in 21, and I just started off on such a bad contract. And I can't even explain it was so stressful. I was just in a bad environment, bad clinic environment. I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't prepared to have to defend my license and defend billing practices that I was using, because the ownership was trying to push some unethical things in that way. And so I just immediately went into it experiencing maybe the worst side of things. And I know there's a lot of other people who did not have that experience. They had some more positive experiences, or it's just a more average contract experience. And I've had those too. It hasn't always been terrible, but it's always been very much about the bottom line. So if I felt that as a staff PT, I felt that 100 times more as a contractor. I've had managers tell me, we know how much we're paying you. We know what our margins are. This is what we expect you to bill. Or our full-time staff does not double book, but because you're travel and we're paying you more, you will be expected to be double booked. You'll be expected to do more of the workload, and they're just absolutely pouring over your billing to make sure you are squeezing every last unit out of each and every patient. And at no point on any of these contracts did anybody in an administrative role or managerial role talk to me about, hey, we have this opportunity for you to improve patient care, or if you would like to be a part of this course, or that sort of thing. There's really very far and few in between opportunities like that, but lots and lots of meetings and conversations about billing, and you're getting paid more as a contractor, so we're going to squeeze every penny out of you too. And that was just so frustrating. And I realized that I am not the individual that is going to be okay with compartmentalizing that 40-hour a week just for, a cool scenic hike on a Saturday morning, or, exploring a new city, or just the adventure of being on a travel contract. It wasn't balanced out or evening out at all. I wanted to find meaning and purpose in my day-to-day work. I'm not the type of person that wanted to live for the weekend, or that was just going to be happy making a ton of money while essentially just letting my mental health get wrecked.
Love that. Yes, 100%. For clarification, what were the different settings, or the settings that you did solely for the travel therapy?
I only did outpatient contracts. Some of them were hospital-based, some of them were private. But I stuck with what I knew coming out of a 4-year permanent job out of school, but then all my contracts were outpatient too.
Perfect. What are maybe some of the practical, non-obvious skills that make you a great fit for the work you do now with this online fitness coaching?
Practical skills, you have to be able to sell and market. And I think that's the big thing. I've always enjoyed being on social media and connecting with people that way. That's something that I was doing before I realized I even wanted to start a business. I just liked that I could use that tool to connect with people. And so once I had a service to provide, it was a lot easier for me to do this, because I was used to recording myself and being in front of a camera and making YouTube videos and whatever it was. So that's a big thing. And I know that's something I've talked to a lot of people that want to do this. But I don't feel comfortable listening to the sound of my own voice. I don't feel comfortable recording myself. I was like, well, people need to know that you're a real person on the internet. That needs to happen. They need to be able to somehow connect with you virtually. And, your face and your voice on social media is extremely important. Someone's going to be able to see that. And if you're genuine and you have something that's really special to offer, they're going to connect with that. And that's a very practical skill, probably, more on the obvious side of things. But I think a lot of the skills that PTs use and employ, successful PTs, in the clinic use on a daily basis are extremely valuable for being an entrepreneur. Things that maybe we don't even realize are skills that we have when we're working for someone else, that educate people, that convince them why they should buy in. Because we talk about patient buy-in being so important for the treatments and interventions that we use on a daily basis. So that in a lot of ways is promoting what it is that you're doing. Why is it beneficial? Why do they need that? How is it going to help them? So when you're bringing that into an online space, that's essentially marketing and sales too. So that's a huge, huge portion of it that I think that a lot of PTs, people in the healthcare world, myself included, have a hard time just making this really hard sale. And that's even something now that I sometimes have to really muster up the courage to make some of these posts and, get in front of the camera and make some of these promises, because you don't want to make any false claims. You feel responsible as a healthcare provider to not lead anyone astray, not provide any misinformation. And so we're hypercritical of ourselves, even though we know that our service has value to offer to other people. Sometimes just getting up there and saying that is a tough thing to do.
Absolutely. And I completely agree. I think those other rehab professionals like OTs, speech paths, and really everybody in the health field, there's similar carryover in skill sets when it comes to caring for patients and education and being a voice. And whether it's just one-on-one with a patient or you and their family, I mean, we're all on stage, so to speak. This is the Kool-Aid we're providing. This is why we think you should drink it. And yeah, very valuable into not just business or entrepreneurial stuff, any career or job role, it's valuable in. I mean, it's interpersonal skills that businesses don't have training for. And if it's something that you recognize, it's for sure a valuable asset that can be added. It's just seeing how that fits into the next transition or the next role that you're wanting to land. What is obvious to you now that you struggled to see in the moment with this transition, from working to outpatient ortho to getting to where you are now? It's a hindsight's 2020 question.
I think the biggest thing is that the people that I want to help are out there. People that I can bring the most value to exist, and they've just not been reached by me. That's a huge, huge fear and worry that I had when I was even thinking about doing something like this. Everyone that I was comparing myself to had a massive following on Instagram, was already making a ton of money doing this, already had the backing of all the other authorities in this space to be able to do what it is that they were doing. And I don't know that I can do anything different from them or reach any more people that they haven't already reached. But one by one, just with each client that I've worked with, each conversation that I've had online, I've realized that that's not really the case. And now sometimes it doesn't happen as quickly as we want it to. That's a different story. But I now know that the demographic of people that I want to reach, the information that I want to give them, the ways in which I want to be able to help them, those things can all be utilized effectively and efficiently. And, it's just a matter of being persistent and continuing on with what I'm doing and learning how to become more effective too. Because I'm definitely doing things differently now than I was doing when I first started doing all of this. And so, with all of this comes that growth as well. But just that realization that it makes sense for me to go down this path because I am able to offer something different. That's something that's a little bit more unique than maybe the people that I saw coming up doing it 5 years ago.
Yeah. What you're doing aligns with your values and your purpose and the reason why you got into the health field from the beginning. And instead of taking the traditionally accepted role that is provided, you are out here creating your own that aligns more with your own life journey and purpose. And yeah, I love that's what it's about.
100%.
What do you love most about your new reality?
I think it's just what you said, that it lines up with my values and it lines up with my priorities and my expectations for how healthcare should be provided. But also it ultimately lets me live the life that I want to live too. I think with managing your own business, managing your clients on your own. Yes, there's a lot of work that goes into it, but ultimately you're the one that's going to dictate what productivity and volume is going to look like for you. No one else is just saying, well, you haven't hit our metrics and that's our measure of success. So to us, you are unsuccessful, even though your measure of success may be connecting with someone that has been on an up and down of diet and exercise for the last decade. And now they're finally being able to change some behavioral pattern. And you're going to take them to the next level over this next 6 months or the next year. Multiply that by 10 or 15 clients, whatever that may look like for you. Whereas in a corporate healthcare setting, they're trying to translate it to no, we need it to be more like 150 visits a month or 200 visits, or it needs to be 80 visits a week, or, whatever it may be. So that's the biggest thing, is this reality allows me to be the healthiest version of myself, which is what I feel like is so important for a healthcare provider. If you as a provider are mentally and physically unhealthy because of the environment that you feel like you have to conform to, what level of care are you able to provide to your patients? And what is your ability to sell that in a way that's, okay, I see my provider living this lifestyle, so that makes it a lot more interesting for me to look into or buy into, because it's working for her and she has the knowledge and the background to be able to give me this advice, but she's also living it out. And that makes a huge difference.
100%. Love all that. What are the roots of your new career? What is maybe a seed of hindsight to connecting to the past or past experience that connects with what you're doing now?
Having the desire to just be connected with other people, whether it was social media or whatever it was, I think that stems back to, I really enjoyed making YouTube videos, and I started doing that when I was in high school. I enjoy communicating with others. That's just something that was so fun for me. And I loved editing, and I loved that process of production. Those things that were just silly hobbies, or what my family or parents thought were silly hobbies at that time, those things really were a deep-rooted desire for me to really double down on those things. And ultimately, following those pursuits gave me the skills to do a lot of what I need to do with this business here today. But it always comes back to, I felt there was a message that I could share and should share to encourage and inspire other people to know that they have a lot of potential and to live up with that. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever it is, these were all just different methods to relay that message. At that time, when I was making videos, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to travel the world and be a motivational speaker, or if I'm going to be a physical therapist, or I am going to wind up being a business owner, whatever it was at that time. I was just doing what I thought was really cool and valuable and was going to have an impact. And whether I was doing that in high school or whether it's me doing it now, it's still the same root goal and root motivation. It's just that I can have an impact, a positive impact on another human being by encouraging them and being a support for them.
Absolutely. I love that question, because for several guests, especially that are business owners, entrepreneurs, is they try things out and they realize through trial and error that what they thought they wanted or what they were told was going to be a great career or whatever really wasn't what they thought it was. So they go and they try different things and they end up eventually settling in on something that turns out to be this connection with who they are and alignment with who they are and purpose and value. And often there's something in their past or in the past that connects this to them. And maybe they started in the past and it wasn't encouraged by their culture, or maybe even their parents or whatever, because it's just not a successful thing. There's not a successful career in this. You need to be doing something else, is often what I hear. And so I love hearing that, well, we tried this traditional career path. Mom and Dad, thank you for sending us down this way, but it wasn't right for us and what we want in our life. So we're going to go this way, And I just think it's really cool getting that hindsight perspective.
Yeah, it just comes full circle at the end of the day, which I think is really awesome.
Absolutely. I'm just going to sum up here what the episode was about with some calls to action for listeners. The struggle to find a fulfilling career path within the constraints of the industry is a common problem many of us encounter. The solution lies in recognizing the need to change and explore alternative career paths that align with our passion and values. We must take proactive steps to break free from the confines of a system that doesn't fulfill our professional and personal needs. So some calls to actions here that we need to do is reflect on our current career satisfaction and identify any misalignment with our values. Explore alternative career paths that offer a better balance between professional fulfillment, personal well-being, and consider the skills and passions that make us unique and seek opportunities that allow us to leverage them in a meaningful way. And failure to tackle this problem can result in prolonged dissatisfaction, burnout, a negative impact on our overall well-being. Staying in a career that doesn't align with our values may lead to, missed opportunities for personal growth and fulfillment. So with that, I want to thank you so much, Divya, for coming on the show and just sharing your journey and stories and insights. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This is a great discussion. And I love what you guys are doing with the podcast.